This is Wayne Chaney, pastor of Antioch Church in Long Beach, and I want you to encourage this Emerald in the Rough project by my friends Duke Givens and Antonio Gilbreth. I can't tell you how important this is to our community. I really think that fatherhood is paramount for our young men. I think most of us realize that, but I want to just give you just a quick story of a time when I was youth pastor. I was younger. I even had hair. I had a nice curly top at the time, and I'd given one of the best lessons I felt I had ever given. In fact, I was expecting after the lesson was over for the young men and women who were present to come up and congratulate me, to tell me how much I impacted their lives as in times past. But they just put their head down and literally walked out of the building, and I was dumbfounded. I thought that something happened that was unforeseen, that I didn't know about. And one of the youth workers came up to me after that lesson and said it was an amazing lesson, but they couldn't relate to it. My lesson that day was on the fact that God loves you as a father. The person who walked up and explained the frustration of the youth was someone who knew them more intimately at the time. And they shared that they couldn't understand the lesson about God loving you as a father because none of them had fathers. Many of them had no positive male role model in their life. So as opposed to producing a feeling of security after the lesson, it actually evoked a negative response. And at that moment I realized just how important this fatherhood issue is. If it's not properly established, it even obscures spiritual realities. But beyond that, fathers in a healthy home should be the first to establish a pattern in the life of young men to follow. For most of us, whether we had a father or whether there was no father in the household, we looked to other men to establish our own pattern before we came into our own. If you had the uncle who dressed well and was sharp and people responded to the way he would dress, then you would emulate his style. Maybe not the specific clothes, but you would try to dress up when you could. If there was someone who had a way with the ladies, even if it was a negative example, that was the seed that was sown into our minds, in our lives. And so if there was an uncle or a relative or a father who was a player, then that negative example was sown into our lives before we even had the cognitive ability to reject it. Some of us connect our manhood to our physical prowess. And we look to other men who showed their manhood through how buff they could become. So we took creatine, glutamine, protein, and just ended up mean, you know what I mean? But again, the men in our lives set a pattern for us to follow, particularly young men. That's why I believe this project's important, because we realize that with that comes responsibility, whether the young men, our sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, or others in the community are having heart-to-hearts with us, whether they're having conversation with us or not. Trust me, we are setting a pattern for them to live by. They're looking at us and gleaning some of our behaviors, characteristics, mannerisms, and adopting them as their own. So again, this project is of the utmost importance. We've got to do a better job as a community and a better job as men in setting the path for those who follow, because they're watching.